Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into something a little different.
Hmm.
You sent in a podcast episode about dedicating your week to God.
Okay.
And I gotta admit, I was intrigued.
Yeah.
I actually once tried something similar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, setting an intention every Sunday night for the week ahead.
Hmm.
It wasn't exactly religiously focused, but it kind of got me thinking about how we approach our weeks, you know?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how this idea of dedicating your time, whether to like a higher power or a personal principle,
Right.
pops up across cultures and throughout history.
Yeah,
Like, it's
interesting.
it's really interesting.
So this podcast we're deep diving into this week encourages listeners to start each week by consciously dedicating it to God,
Right.
with a focus on peace, purpose, and divine guidance.
Hmm.
So let's see what nuggets of wisdom we can unearth, shall we?
Let's unpack it.
Okay, so the podcast really emphasizes surrendering your week to God.
Mm.
I don't know about you, but the word surrender always kind of makes me think of giving up.
Yeah, that's a pretty common reaction, I think.
Yeah.
But the podcast frames surrender not as like giving up your goals, but as aligning them with a larger purpose.
Mm.
It's about recognizing there might be a bigger picture, beyond our immediate plans.
So it's less about relinquishing control and more about trusting in something beyond ourselves.
Precisely.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like the difference between white-knuckling your way through the week versus approaching it with open hands, ready to receive guidance and adapt to those unexpected turns.
I like that analogy.
Yeah,
It takes the pressure off,
it does.
doesn't it?
Yeah, and that feeling of being supported, of not being alone in the journey is something a lot of people find comforting.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast also dives into some specific Bible verses.
Yeah.
One that really struck me was Numbers 6.2426.
Okay.
It talks about God blessing and keeping you, making his face shine upon you.
Mm.
It's quite poetic, isn't it?
It is. And in the context of dedicating your week, it's like invoking a sense of protection and favor from the very beginning.
Yeah. It's almost like setting an intention for a positive and blessed week,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And it reminds me of other spiritual traditions that use chants or mantras to cultivate a positive mental state.
That's a great connection.
Yeah.
Whether it's through prayer affirmations or meditation, many practices aim to create that positive inner environment.
Right.
And that resonates with, the secular concept of priming our minds for success.
Okay, so we're seeing some interesting parallels between faith-based and secular approaches here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The podcast also cites Lamentations 3.2223,
Yeah.
which emphasizes God's constant loving kindness and faithfulness.
Yeah, that one stood out to me too. We've all had those Monday mornings where we just want to hit the snooze button forever.
Oh, yeah.
But this verse reminds us that every day is a fresh start.
Mhm.
It's about tapping into that wellspring of hope and resilience, whether we view it as coming from a divine source or from within ourselves.
And resilience is a key theme here.
Yeah.
Life is full of ups and downs. But this verse suggests we have the capacity to renew our spirit, to approach each day with fresh eyes.
It's powerful.
That's a powerful concept, regardless of your belief system.
It is. Now, the podcast also gets into the practical stuff, suggesting daily prayer, gratitude, and meditating on scripture.
Right.
I'm curious, for those of us who might not be coming from a religious background,
Yeah.
can these practices be adapted for a more secular approach to living a fulfilling week?
Absolutely. I think what matters most is the underlying intention.
Okay.
For instance, prayer can be reframed as mindful reflection. It's about taking time to connect with something larger than ourselves, whether that's a higher power or our own inner wisdom.
So it's about carving out that space for introspection and intentionally setting the tone for our day.
Exactly. And meditating on scripture could be compared to choosing a guiding principle for the day,
Right.
maybe an inspiring quote or a personal mantra,
Yeah.
and reflecting on it throughout your day.
I love that. Instead of Taco Tuesday, it's Mindfulness Monday or Gratitude Friday.
Precisely.
Wow.
And research shows that practices like gratitude journaling and focusing on a purpose larger than ourselves can benefit our well-being regardless of religious beliefs.
It seems our brains are wired for meaning and connection, whether we find that through faith philosophy or personal reflection. The impact is undeniable.
That brings up an interesting question.
Yeah.
Does the impact of starting your week with dedication depend on believing in a higher power? Or can similar outcomes be achieved through other means?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
The podcast makes some bold claims about the positive effects of dedicating your week to God. living with purpose, experiencing peace, and feeling equipped to handle challenges. Can we achieve those benefits even without the religious framework?
Let's delve into the psychology of intentionality and mindfulness to explore that. Studies have shown that, regularly practicing gratitude can increase happiness and decrease stress. And setting those clear intentions can really help with focus and productivity.
So there's a real tangible benefit to approaching your week with intention.
Absolutely.
No matter where that intention comes from.
It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Yeah.
And focusing on a purpose larger than ourselves,
Right.
whether it's serving our community, contributing to a cause, or simply making the world a slightly better place,
Yeah.
can give us a sense of meaning and motivation that goes beyond the daily grind.
Yeah.
It can even make those mundane tasks feel more worthwhile.
It's like tapping into a hidden reservoir of energy and resilience.
Right.
The podcast also emphasizes starting each day with the intention to bless others. I found that idea particularly powerful.
It's a beautiful concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shifting our focus outward, away from that me mentality, can be incredibly liberating.
It's about recognizing that we're part of something larger.
Right.
A web of interconnectedness.
Yes.
Where even small acts of kindness can have a ripple effect.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to involve, grand gestures or anything.
Right.
It could be as simple as offering a genuine compliment,
Right.
holding a door open,
Yeah.
or simply being present and listening to someone who needs to be heard.
It's about those micro moments of connection that can brighten someone's day, including our own.
You got it. And studies show that helping others actually benefits the helper as well.
Interesting.
It releases endorphins, reduces stress, and fosters a sense of purpose and belonging. So it's a win-win situation.
That's awesome.
Right.
Now, the podcast also talks about praying over your schedule, which might sound a bit mystical for some.
Okay.
Is there a way to reframe that concept?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For a more secular approach.
Yeah.
Instead of praying, think of it as a mental rehearsal. Visualize your day, anticipate potential challenges,
Okay.
and strategize how you'll handle them,
Yeah.
with grace and intention. It's a way of mentally preparing for the day ahead, much like an athlete visualizes their performance before a big game.
So it's like a pregame pep talk for our minds.
Exactly.
I like that. We're training our brains to be more resilient and adaptable.
And remember how we discussed intention setting?
Yeah.
Well, visualizing your day, anticipating roadblocks, and deciding how you'll react is a powerful form of intention setting.
Yeah?
It's about taking control of our narrative before things even unfold.
It's almost like we're writing the script for our day.
Right.
Choosing to be the heroes of our own stories.
That's a great way to put it. That sense of agency can be incredibly empowering,
It is.
especially when we're facing situations that feel outside of our control.
Right. You mentioned the podcast's claims about the benefits of dedicating your week to God. Peace, resilience.
Yeah.
But does this stuff really work?
Right.
What does the research say?
It's important to remember that personal experiences vary, but a lot of people report feeling a greater sense of calm, clarity, and direction when they intentionally start their week with a sense of purpose and connection to something greater.
So anecdotal evidence suggests it's worth trying.
Right.
But we need more than just personal stories to back it up.
Right. And that's where science comes in.
Okay.
We've already touched on the benefits of gratitude and intention setting, but there's also a growing body of research exploring the impact of spirituality and mindfulness on well-being.
Interesting.
Studies have shown that practices like meditation and mindfulness can reduce anxiety and depression, improve focus, and even strengthen the immune system.
Wow, so it's not just about feeling good.
No.
There are actual measurable physiological benefits.
It's truly remarkable.
Yeah.
And the podcast talks about experiencing God's peace. Well, from a secular perspective, we might call that a state of mindfulness.
Okay.
Being fully present in the moment, free from worry and rumination. That sense of inner stillness can be cultivated through practices like meditation and deep breathing.
So it's not about waiting for a bolt of divine inspiration.
No.
It's about actively creating that space for peace within ourselves.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message because it means that anyone, regardless of their beliefs, can tap into this source of inner strength and resilience.
The podcast also emphasizes acknowledging God as Lord over your life. How can we reframe this concept for those who don't connect with that language?
Think of it as Aligning your week with your highest values.
Okay.
What do you stand for? What do you want to prioritize this week?
Mm-hmm.
It's about making conscious choices that reflect those values.
Right.
Being true to your authentic self.
It's about living intentionally guided by our own internal compass rather than blindly follow external dictates.
Precisely. And that sense of self-alignment can be incredibly empowering.
It can.
It allows us to move through the world with purpose and clarity.
Okay, so far we've uncovered quite a few valuable insights from this podcast. We've explored the idea of surrender as alignment, the power of scripture as intention setting,
Right.
the science behind gratitude and mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
and even reframed some of the more faith-based concepts for a broader audience.
Right.
What else can we glean from this deep dive? I think the biggest takeaway for me is this idea of trusting in something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Whether that's God, a guiding principle, or simply the collective good.
It's a pretty universal theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like this innate human need to connect to something that transcends our individual lives,
Mm-hmm.
to find meaning and purpose, beyond the everyday.
Absolutely. The podcast emphasizes that dedicating your week to God is an act of faith,
Right.
making space for him to work in every detail.
Yeah.
But even if you don't subscribe to that belief system,
Yeah.
the underlying message, I think, is still powerful.
I agree.
It's about letting go of the need to control everything,
Right.
surrendering to the flow of life,
Mm-hmm.
trusting that things will unfold as they should.
There's a certain freedom in that surrender, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
And it's not about being passive or giving up on our goals or anything. It's about acknowledging that we're not in this alone,
Yeah.
that there's a force for good at play, whether we call it God,
Right.
the universe, or simply the interconnectedness of all things.
It's like realizing we're part of a larger dance and we don't have to choreograph every single step.
Exactly. And when we embrace that perspective,
Yeah.
it can lift a huge weight off our shoulders.
Definitely.
It allows us to approach challenges with more grace and resilience, knowing that even in the midst of difficulty, there's a higher purpose unfolding.
Speaking of challenges, the podcast also highlights that trusting God with each day brings peace.
Okay.
From a secular standpoint, how does this idea of peace connect with the concepts we've been discussing?
When we're constantly worrying and trying to control every outcome,
Yeah.
our minds are in a state of turmoil.
Right.
But when we surrender to the present moment,
Mm.
trust in the process,
Uh-huh.
and focus on what we can control.
Yeah. A sense of peace naturally arises. It's about quieting that inner critic.
Yes.
Right. Stepping out of the whirlwind of our thoughts and into a place of stillness.
You got it. And that state of inner peace
Yeah.
isn't something that just happens.
Right.
It's a skill we can cultivate
Okay.
through practices like mindfulness, meditation, and gratitude.
So it's not about waiting for a divine intervention. It's about actively creating a space for peace within ourselves, regardless of what's happening around us.
That's the key takeaway.
Yeah.
It means peace isn't dependent on external circumstances. It's an inner state we can access anytime, anywhere.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive.
It has.
We've taken a seemingly religious concept and unpacked it, revealing layers of universal wisdom that apply to anyone seeking a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
And that's the beauty of exploring diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
We can find valuable insights in unexpected places, even if we don't fully align with the source material's belief system.
Absolutely. The core message resonates regardless of your personal beliefs. Start your week with intention. Connect to something larger than yourself, and cultivate a sense of peace and purpose.
Those are good ones.
These practices have the potential to transform your experience both internally and in how you interact with the world.
It's a reminder that we have more power than we realize to shape our reality, to approach each week with a sense of purpose and possibility.
So, as we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a question.
Okay.
If you could dedicate this week to one guiding principle or intention, what would it be? What value, what quality, what aspiration do you want to embody as you move through the days ahead? Take a moment to really consider that.
Yeah.
Because as we've explored today, even a small shift in intention can have a ripple effect on your entire week and ultimately on your life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.